Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Sixers show presented by Bet365 live, not exactly from the Xfinity mobile studio, where we are remote today because of the snow. My name is Rich Hoffman, and I am joined, as you see on the screen right now, Kyle Neubeck, who is not at the game. Hey, look, it's snow in Philadelphia, a little tough the last couple of days.
We got to switch it up every once in a while, Rich. Got to keep the faces in and out and in and out.
Absolutely. So the people are getting a new combo tonight. Devon has got a well-deserved night off, and he'll be back with me on Thursday. And Kyle, we have another basketball game shortly after that complete debacle that you guys talked about yesterday. That was so bad that I like literally stopped watching. I watch every game. And
I was going to ask, Rich, did you, because you weren't on post-game duty, it was a snow day, how far into Sixers Hornets did you actually make it before you said that this one's over, I'm pulling the plug?
About 5 or 6 minutes into the third quarter. Yeah, and it just, I think once they got hit with that big run at the end, I think the second they took Maxey out, whenever that was a little later in the third quarter, I was monitoring that because I was like, oh my God, just get him out of the game. I don't want to talk about this. Like, you need to get him out of the game. It was a disaster. And it's funny, you learn later, it's like, oh, Jared McCain finally made a shot in the garbagest of garbage time ever. But here we are with the Sixers. Look, that was a debacle, Kyle. I thought going into the week, I thought that was going to be a loss. I was like, that Joel's not playing in that game. Weird 3 p.m. start. I did not think it was going to be that big of a debacle. And when you're down by 50 after 3 quarters, there's never any excuse for that. That's absolutely terrible. And it's a spot here where I think, like, they got to win these next 3. Like you're getting Milwaukee without Giannis tonight, and then you're getting Sacramento and New Orleans are the other 2 games at home this week. You need all 3. You've been doing too much losing, too many winnable games, and then you put that debacle on top of it. They need to start winning, and that starts tonight.
Yeah, like, they've lost a bunch of these games that they're going into tonight, Rich. Like, they lost to the shorthanded Nuggets with no Jokic, no Murray. That you can't come in with the same mentality tonight. I think the only benefit of having a loss like that game against Charlotte yesterday is that everybody's back should be up. It's like, okay, we got embarrassed yesterday. We got humiliated. And I know that Joel and Paul were not part of that, but surely they're coming back in the lineup, having watched what happened yesterday, looking at, frankly, their record right now, where they're only a few games above 500 after, I think, coming into 2026, coming out of 2025, there's some good vibes around this team as the Eagles season is crashing and burning. It's like, all right, maybe the Sixers will come in and pick us up. Nope. It's been back to the roller coaster and frankly been a lot more down than up recently. The Houston game was the big exception for sure. So tonight you have to come in. Number one, just got to be a professional effort. And that's all it should really take to beat this team, because Derek has laid it out on the show when we've talked about Giannis as a all-star starter and, guy who's going to threaten to, if he had played enough games this year, would have been threatening to maybe win an MVP again. Without Giannis on the floor, they are just the pits on both ends of the floor, and especially on offense, where he takes them from bottom 5 without him on the floor to a genuine top 10 offense, just because Giannis is Giannis and can drive the team in that way. You give him the ball, you get out the way, you put shooters around him. There is no possible excuse to lose this game. Yes, they will be on a back-to-back, a lot of them, but 2 of the most important guys, Joel Embiid and Paul George, who we now know are officially available, they're back. They should be fresh. They got a couple of days off. Go get it done, fellas. That's the most important thing.
I would argue they owe the rest of the guys one. As bad as that performance was yesterday, and the rest of those guys, they owe the fans a pretty good performance. It's like, look, when you guys take that half of the back-to-back off, that's part of the Sixers story, unfortunately, this season. You got to show up the other half, because we'll get into it with Maxey's minutes in a second here, but it's just the fact of life here is you're making it harder on the rest of the team by not being available in those games. I think it's smart that the Sixers are doing that. In Embiid's case, I think you look at how he's played in recent games, it's fine, but like got to bring it tonight. So couple things I have on the game before we get into Maxey real quick here, Kyle. So the Sixers have played the Bucks on the second half of a back-to-back 3 times this year.
Yes.
And you look at that at the beginning of the year, I saw that and was like, ooh, that's a bad bit of scheduling. I think the other one is also on a back-to-back as well. And you're like, yeah, that's a team that they could be fighting for, the 6th seed or the 5 seed with.
Right.
And to be at a schedule disadvantage. But like you said, they have been fortunate enough to miss Giannis in all of those games so far. They won the other 2. First one was when Maxey went absolutely crazy in the game. And then the second one, it was more kind of a dominant team effort. Paul George was really good in that game as well. And the real quick thing I want to say about like the professional effort, that's just the main thing. Like respect the game in a way that you did not against the Denver Nuggets. But I will say one little scheme-based thing I would say. I am probably more sympathetic for Nick Nurse's aggressive defense. Like I think overall Sixers are about 10th, 11th on defense for the year. Certainly didn't look like it yesterday. I think I think I understand it looks bad and they do give up a decent amount of open threes and that can get frustrating for sure. But I do think there are more games that I think people want to give them credit for where the juice is worth the squeeze and they are getting a decent amount of runouts in transition. Obviously, there's a balance, right? When it looks bad, it looks bad. Okay, get rid of that scheme tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks do one thing well. They do one thing well. They shoot well. That's all they do.
Yep.
They're bad at everything on defense, and they're worse at everything with Giannis, and they're bad at everything on offense. They don't get offensive rebounds. They don't do any of that stuff. The one thing that they do is they shoot the ball well, and they particularly shoot the ball well from 3. I don't want to see any overhelping in this game. Just guard your man, make them take tough 2s. No Tyrese Maxey gambling, none of that, because this is a team you should be able to guard one-on-one.
Rich, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think they're still going to play the same help principles, the same scheme, the same aggressive and often over-aggressive coverage. And I won't say it's like the major or the main reason that they end up in all these games where it comes down to final 5 to 8 minutes and they got to pull it out in crunch time. But it is a factor. Like it's something that happens all throughout the game where either they let guys get going early and they're able to sustain it throughout the game, or they do have success playing their style early. They're in the passing lanes. Tyrese is helping from the blind side. They're getting out in transition, they're scoring, they're up by 15, maybe even 20 points. And then that same aggression gets turned against them maybe in a third quarter. We've talked about the third quarter all year. And all of a sudden, that big lead turns into 4 made threes in a row for the other team. They're starting to feel themselves. And frankly, then the Sixers get a little tight. Like, what are we doing? Do I trust that this switch is coming? Like, I think one of the big things in the Charlotte game, I don't think that was a scheme problem so much.
That was effort. That was juice. Yeah, that was.
It was just like you got to actually show up for the game is the main thing there. But I agree with you. Like this is a team. If you were going to make a change, I shouldn't even say change. Sounds very dramatic. Just a small tweak. Just say, hey guys, just stay home and let's guard one-on-one. Let's. If we get beat one-on-one and somebody gets to the basket, okay, we'll give them that. But what you can't do is allow them to do the thing that they are good at, and that's shoot. So I'm 100% with you.
So the other thing I would say too, and that leads into Tyrese Maxey, I thought you nailed it yesterday, especially in your observations, but you also mentioned it on the post-game pod as well. I've enjoyed this season, man, for the most part. I know yesterday sucked, and there have been a couple of bad performances. The one Orlando game was bad, but for the most part, I've enjoyed this season. They're right around where I thought they would be with these variables. But I agreed with what you said, like just excusing Maxey because of the minutes and because Embiid and George are not available for that game. It's just like he didn't play well. And I think we're able to at least say that he like he struggled in that game. And he's like, if he's going to be an all NBA player, you need him to show up in a way that is just different from that game. So okay, I think Kyle froze here for a sec. I think I heard his mic for a sec. I'll just keep going here for everybody. But I think what Kyle said after the game was just like Maxey. It's true that Maxey does play more minutes than these guys, and it's true. I also think that Nurse has run him into the ground a little bit, but it doesn't have to be every single game where he struggles. It's Embiid and George's fault. And I think that's been something that's frustrated me on the season overall, where it's like, it feels like there's a camp of fans that's like pro Maxey and anti Embiid. And then there's people who are pro Embiid and weirdly anti Maxey. And yesterday's game just felt like the perfect encapsulation of, it's not like the Sixers team is, I don't want to say house of cards, but like they do have a lot of things that can go wrong. And as we saw in the Houston game, in a few of those games over the Christmas break, when all of these pieces fit together and they're all playing well at the same time, yeah, they can be a pretty interesting playoff team in the Eastern Conference, especially an Eastern Conference that doesn't have like a going away dominant team. But yesterday was an example, guys, where it's like the idea of like Maxey playing at the level he did early this year with VJ going crazy. It's like, I don't think that's the way this team is going to win. They're going to need Joel Embiid to play. They're going to need Paul George to be a part of this team, especially with his defense. VJ Edgecombe is wildly talented, but he's also a rookie, right? Like I think he's been somewhat up and down, and that's okay because he's a rookie, and I think we all believe he's going to be a very good player. And Tyrese Maxey is allowed to have bad games too, and I think there are elements of him where getting the ball to Embiid in the half court, I think we saw it a little bit. Like Embiid, there are times where I think he can take some pressure off of Maxey and needs to take some pressure off of Maxey. And you can keep going down the list too, where Dominic Barlow and Jabari Walker, those guys are good players and those guys are good two-way signings, but neither of them can shoot threes, and that like really limits what you're able to do on offense. So I guess my whole point here is that I think the Sixers have enough when everything is going right and everybody's healthy and everybody's playing, where they can be a pretty interesting team in the playoffs. But the tough thing about them is that there are, whether it's Embiid's availability or maybe Maxey when teams switch him and go isolation, and then all of the role players. I didn't even mention Quentin Grimes, who's been just dreadful for like a couple weeks here. He's been completely up and down all season, but he's been dreadful this past week. So it's one of those things where yesterday's game, I think the Sixers should be able to move on from that game. They should play better tonight. And I think Tyrese Maxey definitely is gassed. Like it's not an excuse in that regard, but it's going to take all of them over these next, 2.5 months before the playoffs start. They're going to need all of these guys to sort of perform their role and play at the highest level, because they are a team that they're interesting pieces when you try to fit them all together. But I do think, it's one of those things where you're going to need all of them to really click for everything to click into place. So that's my thoughts on Tyrese Maxey and his minutes overall. We have Shmooey saying that Kyle is not beating the buffering allegations out here, which is kind of funny. I'm not going to make that joke, but Shmooey said that right there. I believe. Let me take a look at the starting lineup. Bree, do we have that for tonight's game with Joel and Paul George potentially getting back for this game? Let's see who we got here in the starting lineup. Sorry guys, this is not great podcasting, but I'm kind of doing this on my own right now. We have Joel Embiid and Paul George in the lineup for tonight's game. And I think, like Kyle and I were talking about earlier on, like those guys need to show up. They need to show up. Thank you, Bree, for putting that up there. I'm sorry. Kind of got a little bit ahead of myself there. Yeah, the fact that those guys are available to play a professional effort in tonight's game, yeah, that should get you over the finish line, because the Bucks, without Giannis, like Kyle said, they're just not very good. I respect shorthanded Doc. We've seen shorthanded Doc do great work with the Sixers over the years, but they just haven't been very good. And I don't think with Giannis, he is their one main shot creator. He is the guy that really gets these Bucks wide open. So like the hope would be Joel. I know it kind of got lost in yesterday's game against Charlotte. Is that Joel in that first half against the Knicks the other day? He was unbelievable. That was like, I did not expect to see Joel Embiid play at that level. And Roy did the post game the other day, so I didn't get to comment on this. I actually was at a wedding, and I was kind of in between the ceremony and the reception, and I watched the whole first half in between at a bar, and then I watched the game afterwards after it was over. He was unbelievable. I was like completely blown away. I wasn't even talking to anybody at the wedding. I was like, this is crazy. Joel has 28 points in the first half, and the Knicks are just, they couldn't do anything with them. And yeah, I know I went back and watched the second half. Yeah, that third quarter was completely dreadful. I feel like Sixers got a little bit too ISO happy in that game. But man, what a great step from Joel to just be able to like get to that level again where he's just unguardable one-on-one. Now, that's not the way you're going to want to play against the best teams. You're going to have to involve Tyrese. You're going to have to involve VJ, PG, all of those things. But man, like what a good sign that he has that inside him. Like the fact that the Knicks and Cat, and I know Mitchell Robinson did a better job on Joel in the second half, but I don't know, man. That felt really sustainable. The way he was able to drive in particular, that's a big thing that Nurse says after these games, where he's like, Nurse is like, a big thing for me is he driving the ball? Because he's pretty good when he's driving. And for me, the indicator is that, oh, there he is.
Love a computer hard crash in the middle of us doing the show. Yes. Love that so much.
Well, I was just talking about during my filibuster there that
great filibuster. I had it up on my phone, so I at least had an idea of what you were talking about while my computer decided to go to hell or wherever the hell that was.
Well, you're back, baby. So real quick, I guess before we go to break here, I can't believe how well he played the other day, man. Like that first half was like, I know that a loss to the Knicks stings in the standings, and it's a bummer because they have all of their fans here, and that's a team that you did beat twice in New York. It did feel like you kind of were gaining some positive momentum, and you had their number. And they probably got a little too static in the second half, but like the fact that he was able to score so easily against them, I never thought I would see that from him again. And hopefully he can carry it over again tonight, because that's like old Joel. And the key to blowing out these teams in the past was old Joel just goes crazy for 3 quarters, and then you get everybody out the court because you're winning by so much.
Yeah, I mean, we spent most of the offseason saying stuff like Joel has to be treated as a luxury rather than a guarantee. And even early in the year, if you just looked at the way he was moving, particularly defensively and as a rebounder, I think has been the thing that I've liked a lot more, is just like him attacking the ball in midair, and he's driving with force. That's the thing that Nick Nurse always spotlights, and I think he's right, that when Joel wants to play downhill basketball and be not just a standstill jump shooter from the nail or a trail 3 shooter, and he's going at guys, he's going at Karl Anthony Towns, Mitchell Robinson, Şengün, Durant, whoever it might be, that sets up everything else. That sets up the elbow jumper. And so I think we're just seeing a different version of him right now. The version of him that everyone's been hoping for and that most people thought didn't exist anymore. So I'm very happy that he is back in some capacity like that. How long does it last? I guess we'll have to find out.
Look, now that you have that level of Joel, Myles Turner is a guy that he's put in foul trouble and put in the torture chamber over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see it again tonight. Get a laugher of a win and get back on track this week, because the schedule gets harder. You get a West Coast trip leading into the All-Star break after this. Okay, we will talk a little bit more about the game. We will go over the starters a little bit more and get to our pregame picks. But first, we're going to talk to a few of our sponsors. And guys, let's start with Xfinity. Really quick. Sorry. Oh, the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. What if you could have reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi? And what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 years. That is the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes everything in your home work together, that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them, like super intelligent Wi-Fi with a sixth sense, Bruce Willis style, and that lets you stream the game even when the whole family's online. All of your devices working in perfect harmony for 5 whole years. And here's the best part, guys. There's no annual contracts, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment is included. Take it from me, a lot can change in 5 years. Championships are won, records are broken, dreams grow bigger, but your Wi-Fi, it should stay reliable, and the price, it should stay put. So lock in that price and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions apply.
Rich, I can't believe we didn't get a Xfinity Wi-Fi joke at my expense after that, but that's the nicest thing you've ever done for me. Guys, I got to tell you about our presenting sponsor tonight, Bet365, because you guys know, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, 780,000 events that are live streamed every single year. They do early payout offers across the NBA and NHL. They pioneered live in-game betting, and they have the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 different sports. Unfortunately, Rich and Devon and Bree, they're the experts when it comes to the gambling stuff, so I wish I could tell you about some sage advice I had for you, or this big pick that I had recently that you guys saw on the show that you were able to pay out. But Rich has got one coming, so just stay tuned until the end when we talk about our picks, and you guys will be able to treasure what you get from Bet365. Breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And welcome back to the PHLY Sixers pregame show presented by, as Kyle just said, our friends at Bet365. All right, Kyle, we did show the starters earlier, but Bree, why don't you put those up again? And Kyle, I have a question for you. Kelly Oubre has been reinserted into the starting lineup. Now, we haven't been able to see it in too many games because the Sixers play a lot of back-to-back. So, you know, there are games where there are other players that do find themselves in the starting lineup, but it does seem pretty clear that when they do have everybody healthy, Kelly Oubre is back in the starting lineup. He hasn't been Wally pipped in that sense. What do you think about that? I've read some comments. It seems like Dominic Barlow is taking it, I think, pretty well in stride. Like, seems like he has a pretty good attitude about it. But I guess what do you think about the Sixers reinserting Kelly into the starting lineup?
I get it. Like, I think he's playing better than Barlow right now. I think probably some of the calculus is, even though Oubre on the percentages is not a super trustworthy shooter, he's still someone that teams will generally guard. Now, that depends on the team. It depends on the matchup, depends on the coverage that they're playing. But, I mean, we saw it in the Houston game where he had a really good game. Kevin Durant, or whoever was the guy in the corner guarding him a lot of the game, was hugging him pretty closely. Is that a misnomer because he was hot that game? Maybe. But I think teams respect him as a scorer. And so even when guys are not the greatest, just like stretch players from the corner or whatever, I do think if you have a scorer's reputation, that plays into the head of whoever is on them. So I think that's a big part of it on offense for Nurse. And I think the other part of it is wanting like a look at more of a playoff style lineup because of that. Because as much as I've liked what Barlow has brought to the table this year, I could just see a version of a series in the playoffs, should they make it there, that he's just standing in the corner getting the Matisse Thybulle treatment from when he was here. And it's that slow wind up three. And maybe he makes one here or there, but generally other teams are going to live with that. And so you got to build the reps out for the rest of this group. Now, they've gotten plenty of reps with Barlow, with those other four guys that are the assumed starters night in and night out. So I don't mind going to Kelly here. I frankly would probably like to look at some other combinations too. If Quentin Grimes, one, was available tonight, two, was playing better than he is right now, I wouldn't mind like a 3-guard look. And Paul, I wouldn't mind if Jared McCain ever learned how to play basketball again, seeing him dabble against some, lower rung teams like we're going to see later this week against Sacramento and New Orleans. But yeah, I think this is probably the group that Nick Nurse is going to go to war with, close with. And so you might as well get them on the floor together. I know we talked about them the first time they started against Houston. And prior to that game, they only had 4 possessions played together. So if you want to get them on the floor and get them meaningful reps, you got to start now, and you got to commit to it for a pretty extended period here.
This does feel like a game where if you do get up a lot, and especially if Grimes is not playing in this game, maybe you give McCain another chance. Like I think we've sort of seen eye to eye on this. Like it's at some point you got to start playing well, man. Like I don't think Jared McCain has been treated unfairly. And frankly, in yesterday's game, I know he got hot when the game was completely over, but the first half minutes were pretty brutal from him. If we're bad. Yeah. So, but maybe you give him another shot. He did see the ball go in. I didn't see it because I'm not going to go back and watch that slop at the end of the game. But both maybe a team that he should be able to play pretty well against. They do play a lot of zone, the Bucks too, if I remember correctly. Like that's a team Maxey lit up, Paul George lit up. McCain got up a bunch of threes in one of the games they played. So maybe this is a decent chance for him to play as well. And hopefully they're up by so many points that if he's in the rotation, if he's out of the rotation, he's getting a decent chance to get some minutes here. So I think that's, I think this should be a game that they blow these guys out. I mean, it's been look, it's like you said, the embarrassment level from the previous game. You would think that spurs the Sixers on to a decent performance. I guess I'm also curious to see what we get from Maxey tonight. Like that was terrible yesterday, and I feel like he's been struggling in a lot of games recently. But a lot of that is bad shooting, which I'm not going to completely let him off the hook for, because, hey man, like you're paid to put the ball in the basket. We can't just like hand wave it away when you're not scoring. Yesterday was different. Yesterday, he just did not have the energy from the start. And, he gets a little bit of a respite in the second half, but not much. And the Sixers get back at 1 a.m. Was from Nick Nurse in the press conference. There was two bits of news. Sixers get back at 1 a.m. And trust me, as somebody, I don't know where they're flying out of in Charlotte, but as somebody who's been stuck in Charlotte plenty of times, flying back American, that can be quite annoying. The other thing that actually stood out that you missed from pregame tonight is that Doc Rivers called Joel Embiid the most talented player he's ever coached. I think that's kind of interesting considering he coaches a pretty talented player like on his current team right now.
Yeah, and I listen, Doc loves to spin a yarn. So whatever is convenient for him at that given moment, and he's in front of the Philadelphia media. Giannis certainly seems like he's probably out of there. I get why he's going there. I don't even necessarily disagree, but that's another conversation. But yeah, I missed a nice chat with Doc tonight, but here I am having tech issues on the pregame show with you, Rich.
Well, you're talking about spinning a yarn. I don't think you were here for this one, but when and you guys have mentioned it on the show a lot. A classic Doc yarn was when he said it was Tyrese Maxey's idea to get him to go on the bench to make room for D'Anthony Melton, and he made a big deal. That was in LA. I believe they were playing the Lakers that night. Yeah, it was he made a big deal of it. And when you talked to Tyrese Maxey after that was over, you were like, okay, that's not what happened in this game. So that's Doc Rivers spinning a yarn. Okay, let's get to the pregame picks from Bet365 and then get out of here. We do not have Gamblin' Givens for tonight, but we definitely have me, and do we have Bet and Bree as well? Yes, we do.
Bet and Bree's in there.
Okay, so I like Bree's bet, just a nice double for Joel. Again, Kyle, we talked about it. I mean, Joel, like this Bucks team, they don't do anything well, and you would think like on the defensive glass, the Sixers should be able to get some rebounds. I went a little more long shot. I went with Paul George, 20 plus points. He's done that in both games against the Bucks this year, and the conditions are the exact same. The conditions that Giannis is not playing in this game. The Bucks are going to play a bunch of zone, I think it was the second game he played against them. Remember that first quarter that PG had against these guys? That was
he went
electric
bonkers.
Stuff. He had like a 6-7 possession stretch where it's like, wow, man, if you could bottle that up and do that more consistently, that looks like the old Paul George. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm hoping they play some zone. I'm hoping he makes some threes. I don't think he's had 20 plus points in like 8-9 games. So there's a reason it's plus 290, but I like the value on that bet. Aaron called me high rolling rich. I like that, like rolling rich or something like that. We can figure out the
We'll
name.
workshop some nicknames for Rich's pregame pick segment.
And I will reference it in the post game if it hits, and if it doesn't, I'm not going to reference it. So that's fine. Like, I'm just going to pretend
we
like
only count the winners around here, Rich. You know how it goes.
Okay. Snowy, cold game for everybody. Hope everybody is staying safe. So watch the game. It's on NBC tonight or Peacock or somewhere. It's, I don't know. Find
it's
it
on TV. You'll find it.
In Philly, it's on NBC. It's starting right about now. Kyle and I will be back in the post game 2.5 hours, and hopefully we're talking about like a Sixers blowout. But like Kyle said, haven't been too many of those this year. Haven't been too many just laugher easy buddy. Wins. So fingers crossed that this is the night. Fingers crossed that they are shamed into putting together a good performance for tonight. So for Kyle and for Bree, I am Rich, and we will see you guys in a few hours. We all city.